to find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
And why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel. 2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debate, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
Greetings to Muslims at the start of the month of Ramadan. I wish you peace and joy.
Is the Archbishop of Canterbury promoting Islam over Christianity? Also,
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Has Starmer's weak leadership been exposed again? And
One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, right?
Surely Labour have to hand this extremist donors money back, don't they? Plus,
what we're hearing today is something very different, much weaker, and is going to undermine the very principle that lies behind the policy.
£3,000 to go to Rwanda, and the woke civil service is threatening to take the government to court. On my panel, it's the editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, activist Adam Brooks, and author Rebecca Reid. Oh, and what is going on in our funeral homes? Is someone else's nan in your urn? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Is the head of the Church of England promoting Islam? Next.
Good evening, it's 1 minute past 9. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB Newsroom. Your top story this hour. Diane Abbott, the MP at the centre of a growing racism row, has accused the Speaker of the Commons of not serving democracy after she wasn't called to speak in Parliament. It's after the Conservatives' biggest donor, Frank Hester, allegedly said that the former Labour MP made him want to hate all black women and that she should be shot. Mr Hester says he's deeply sorry for the remarks. At Prime Minister's Questions today, Sir Keir Starmer confronted Rishi Sunak over the remarks, pressing him to return Mr Hester's £10 million donation. The Prime Minister acknowledged Frank Hester's comments were wrong and racist, but declined to say his donations would be returned, instead calling out what he said were double standards in the Labour Party.
I'm absolutely not going to take any lectures from somebody who chose to represent an anti-Semitic terrorist group, Hizb ut-Tahrir, who chose to serve a leader who let anti-Semitism run rife in this Labour Party. Those are his actions, those are his values, and that's how he should be judged.
The Prime Minister speaking there. Now, Andy MacDonald has had the Labour whip restored after he was cleared of breaking party rules by using a controversial slogan at a pro-Palestine rally. The MP for Middlesbrough was suspended in October after he used the phrase "from the river to the sea" during a speech at a pro-Palestine event. The words refer to the land between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean, which many find offensive because it appears to refer to all of Israel. A Labour spokesperson said Mr MacDonald had been reminded that elected representatives must be mindful of how their words are interpreted. And migrants who've been refused asylum to Britain could be offered thousands of pounds to move to Rwanda. The voluntary scheme would be separate to the Safety of Rwanda bill, which is facing delays due to a series of amendments. It would extend current returns policies, which sees some migrants offered £3,000 to return to their country of origin. And TikTok could be banned in the US unless the app's Chinese owners sell its American operation. The House of Representatives voted to pass a bill that would require the social media company to be sold or blocked with an overwhelming majority. The bill still needs to pass the Senate to become law. Here in the UK, TikTok hasn't been banned before, but it was blocked from the government devices in 2023 over data privacy concerns. And for the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's back to Patrick.
It appears the Archbishop of Canterbury is doing more to promote Islam than Christianity. Justin Welby stands accused of naively standing by while a fake asylum seeker conveyor belt of Muslim men uses the Church of England as a backdoor into Britain. Claims he strongly denies. Then today we got this. As the government desperately tries to clamp down on extremism in Britain, which is overwhelmingly Islamist, Welby signs a joint letter with the Archbishop of York saying the new definition being proposed not only inadvertently threatens freedom of speech, but also the right to worship and peaceful protest, things that have been hard-won and form the fabric of a civilised society. Crucially, it risks disproportionately targeting Muslim communities, who are already experiencing rising levels of hate and abuse. Now, hate and abuse, obviously, is bad, all right? But could a new definition of extremism that disproportionately targets Muslim communities possibly be because there is a disproportionate amount of extremism in certain hard-line Muslim communities? Look, it's tough for Welby. His definition of extremism and Islamist terror is obviously very, very loose. In Nigeria, jihadis have slaughtered, reportedly, 62,000 Christians since the year 2000. 8,000 were murdered in 2023 alone by groups like Boko Haram, Islamic State of West Africa Province and Fulani militias. These are card-carrying jihadi nutters. How did Welby describe them? Oh, I, like many others around the world, am shocked and saddened by events in Nigeria over the past few days. I join calls for the immediate release of the hundreds of school children, some as young as 7, kidnapped by gangs. Yeah, gangs of what, Archbishop? Why can't you say it? The Jewish Chronicle reported that Mr Welby invited some alleged hardline Islamists over for tea and cake. Mohammed Ali Shamali, who met Justin Welby, spent 5 years as the UK representative of the Iranian Supreme Leader in his role as the head of the Islamic Centre of England. The London Mosque that was placed under investigation by the Charity Commission, accused of promoting extremism, claims they deny. Also, on the guest list was Mohammed Kosbar, a leader of the Muslim Council of Britain, who praised the founder of the Hamas terror group as a holy warrior. Welby posted a gushing message after the event, saying it was a pleasure to welcome friends, adding that he'd enjoyed the honest sharing of different perspectives. Interesting choice of friends for an Archbishop of the Christian faith, isn't it? In light of the latest allegations of fake asylum seeker baptisms for young Muslim men, GB News has obtained leaked footage of the Archbishop actually conducting one of these asylum seeker ceremonies himself.
Greetings to Muslims at the start of the month of Ramadan. I wish you peace and joy as you begin this extraordinary and special time of prayer, fasting and spiritual reflection. Thank you for the huge contribution that Muslims across our nation make to our society.
Yeah, all right, OK, that was a joke. That's obviously not really Welby doing a baptism, is it? It's him wishing everybody a happy Ramadan. This is all from the last few days. So, the question stands, I think, is the Archbishop of Canterbury doing more to promote Islam than Christianity? Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. We've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks. And, of course, the incredibly successful author Rebecca Reid. Adam, I'll start with you. Do you think that Welby is doing more to promote Islam, certainly in the last few days anyway, arguably, than the Christian faith?
Yeah, it's just a little bit, as you said, disproportionate to say what was happening in Nigeria. And look, we've got people calling for jihad on the streets of London. We've got Jewish schools with bomb threats, multiple schools. We've had Jewish businesses attacked. Where is his time for that? Where are his words to the Jewish community? I just find it very odd. For me, he really is a Remainer lefty activist. You know, he tried to scupper Brexit. He wants to wade in on the immigration. He's interfering in the politics of this country.
But that is part of his job. So I think sometimes there's a misconception that the Church of England and that the Church of Rome are supposed to be politically neutral or like the royal family. And that's not the case. It's always been their job to weigh in on politics. It's always been their job to weigh in on anything that's relevant. So I was at church on Sunday and we prayed for lots of things, including peace in the Middle East, including the victims of the October 7th bombings and terror attacks. Yeah. And also we prayed for people embarking on Ramadan. That's normal. I've done that my whole life.
I don't think we've ever had an archbishop that has been so involved like this.
We have,
and so
100%.
outspoken. Not in my lifetime.
Rowan was just like this. They all were. Do you mind if I ask? Have you been engaged with the faith throughout?
No, I'm an atheist, so I'm not religious of any sort. But I just find that Welby seems to go against the majority feeling of the country nearly every time. So, immigration, Brexit.
It's just a bit odd. I just don't understand why he released the statement. Have you seen? I've got a picture of the statement here, and it's so lofty. It just says a statement from the Archbishop of Canterbury, and it's just nothing really to do with him. It's sort of uninvited, I think. And the other thing he keeps saying is, you know, it could erode a civilised society, but society isn't civilised. At least once a week on a Saturday, you know, we have got a civilisation problem in this country. People are falling out with each other and rioting and protesting. So I think he's kind of working in a different context, a context of a few months ago that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, Rebecca, I'll take your point about, you know, churches, for want of a better phrase, a broad church. However, when you see him there doing, OK, happy Ramadan, fine. Then you see that he's apparently, reportedly, had some, you know, alleged Islamists around for tea and cake. And then he's going on about, well, this extremism definition, which, by the way, could also affect conservative Christians, in a way. People who are, you know, pro-life or anti-abortion would be another way of putting it. People who are, you know, don't believe in gay marriage. I mean, those are equally could be affected by this, OK? And then you, on top of that, see him not describing groups like Boko Haram as Islamists. And you just wonder, you know, is he on a kind of almost Muslim crusade here?
No, I don't think so. I think that the idea of the church is that it's supposed to be open-armed, welcoming and non-judgmental. And in the same way that this is not a version of the Church of England that goes around saying, if you're gay, get out. If you've had an abortion, get out. This is a church that increasingly marries divorcees. We are currently in a period of the church which is which is softer, more open-minded, more open-armed. And I think that having tea with somebody who is potentially a vile, ghastly person might possibly do more to change their mind than shutting them out. But bringing someone in is a better way to change their mind than pushing someone out. That's what this channel does.
I mean, Jeremy Corbyn you know, referred to some rather fruity characters as friends, and it essentially cost him his place in the Labour Party. This guy's allowed in the Lords.
They're not just fruity people, are they? They are dangerous extremists in this country. I think 90% of the terrorist watch list is Islamist suspects. Now, more people, including children, have died through extreme Islamist terrorism in the last 50 years than any other sort of terrorism. Now, this is a real problem to our way of life, and this is really serious. Why? I don't understand why he's having people like that for tea, and why he's not calling out, using the church to call things like that out.
Because that's not how the church works. So, for instance, when Pope John Paul was shot, he had tea with the person who shot him.
I get that.
This is about opening conversations. The church is not here to shut things down, it's to open things up.
Well, I think that I don't understand the church.
Judgy and finger-pointing at the same time, though, isn't he? He's not just being, like, softly, gentle.
I think, generally speaking, he is trying to welcome everybody.
Bossy and haranguing half the time.
You know, this comes fresh off the back as well of, you know, what was widely reported yesterday about this alleged fake asylum seeker conveyor belt.
But what do you do when someone comes...
Yeah, he should be defending himself against that.
You should be defending himself against that. And I just wonder, when we couple that with, you know, declining numbers of people going to church on a Sunday and declining engagement with the Church of England faith in this country and increasingly disillusioned actual members of clergy, etc., and you just think, why is this guy constantly coming out and saying stuff about another faith?
If the church really is has got such a problem with these when you turn people to Christianity for immigration. Why is he not being called out more? Are people scared of him just because he's a religious leader?
I don't think people are scared of him. I think one of the really important tenets of the Bible is that if somebody comes to you and says, I want to be part of your faith, you welcome them in. And it's very...
The church is being used to gain the UK
But what do you do
system.
when someone... So if somebody comes to you and says...
Should he not have called the people that are slaughtering Nigerian Christian children Islamists? I mean, they are card-carrying jihadis, this lot. There's no question marks about this.
I think he could have done...
wandering around the street on a Saturday. This is members of Boko Haram.
Yeah, quite possibly. I think there might have been an oversight. But I think to suggest... And I think probably in terms... If he had his time again, he might well amend it. But I think in terms of the fake conversions...
He wouldn't amend it.
He wouldn't amend it. I think he's a complete woke bore.
He's also just a pushover,
he really is.
Adam.
And to be honest, I don't want him lecturing me on
But he's
what
not the leader
I
of your
think
faith,
about
so you don't have to listen to anything he says. He's not relevant to you.
But I don't have other religions trying to tell me what I should think.
Yes, you do.
And that, do I?
They all do.
Go on, Charlotte, go on.
I'd like him to just be defending our faith a little bit more. You know, those of us who are Christians, maybe just stick up for Christianity.
But what is it that we need to be defended against?
I just don't see...
Currently.
Extremism, that's the whole point of the statement.
But I don't think that's I agree, we absolutely, all of this country need to be defended against extremism, but I don't think that's actually against the Church of England. I think it's against
you can argue
the West.
he's not really doing enough to defend us against extremism. He's now come out against the government trying to update the definition of extremism to try to make sure that there are fewer extremists. And unfortunately, the state of play at the moment, and this is not just me saying it, it's Prevent, and this is the authorities and the people who've done the investigations into Prevent, say that it's overwhelmingly Islamist. And his response to this is to say it might disproportionately affect the Muslim community. I just find that bizarre. You know, this guy's Church of England, no one's asked him for anything on this.
It's virtue signaling. For me, it's complete virtue signalling.
Yes.
He's saying what he thinks people want to hear out there, and we don't.
Virtue is a religious word. He is literally virtue signalling. That is his job.
All right. OK, look, we're off to another flying start, so thank you very, very much for that. Loads more to discuss with this panel later on in the show. But yes, it is time now for the Great British Giveaway. Spring is in the air, and so is your chance to win a garden gadget package, a shopping spree and an incredible £12,345 in tax-free cash. Here's how you could make those prizes yours.
We've got cash, treats and a spring shopping spree to be won in the Great British Giveaway. You could win an amazing £12,345 in tax-free cash. Plus, there's a further £500 of shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. We'll also give you a gadget package to use in your garden this spring. That includes a games console, a pizza oven and a portable smart speaker, so you can listen to GB News on the go. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, Diane Abbott was suspended by Labour nearly a year ago for writing a tone-deaf article that suggested Jews do not experience racism. Now, though, I can reveal the Hackney MP has been begging for the whip back. Will she get it? No-nonsense former Conservative Minister Anne Widdecombe gets stuck into that and claims a May general election is on the cards. That's shortly, but up next in our head-to-head. Sir Keir Starmer told the Commons today that he'd cleaned up his party of whack jobs and extremists.
Speaker, the difference is he's scared of his party. I've changed my party.
Hours later, though, he returned the whip to suspended MP Andy McDonnell, who was rapped for his Rivers to the Seas speech just days after October the 7th terror attacks. Chairman of the National Jewish Assembly, Gary Mond, grapples with a former Labour MP, Ivor Kaplan, on this. It's not to be missed, and it's next.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Should we put tobacco-style warnings on ultra-processed foods? Boris Johnson is calling on the government to do this. In his Daily Mail column, the former Prime Minister says that people don't know what they're feeding their families and there's too many extra ingredients. That's why I'm asking, should we put tobacco-style warnings on ultra-processed food? Well, joining me now to discuss, Steve Miller, former presenter of Fat Families, Helena Davidson, campaigner and policy expert at the Vegan Society. Right, so I'm going to start with you. Steve Miller, what do you think?
Oh, I'm applauding Boris today. Good on you, mate. And the reason for that is we know that the research on the warnings on cigarettes, I should say, when those warnings were visual, they worked very well. The second reason on a practical level is that we need to stop looking and listening before we start, grazing and putting things in the trolley. And the third thing is that these kind of signs, or these warnings, I should say, are kind of hypnotic. They trigger the emotion. So they're much more likely to get people to think and maybe resist.
Yeah, so at the Vegan Society, we're broadly in favour of increasing consumer knowledge when it comes to the nutritional value of people's food. But I think it's important to mention that ultra-processed food isn't an issue that's exclusive to vegans. And whilst most meat alternatives will fall into the ultra-processed food category, it largely depends on how we're going to look at how UPFs are going to be assessed, because vegan alternatives that fall under ultra-processed foods, they're actually, on average, healthier than meat products or ultra-processed foods that contain animal products. Really? So I think it depends on how we look at it. We might have to take a closer look at the nutritional profile of individual foods rather than the level of processing.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Welcome back. Loads on the show tonight. Coming up, former Tory Minister Anne Widdecombe weighs in on the Conservatives' racist donor row and, frankly, one brewing in the Labour Party as well. But time now for our head-to-head. All right, so the number of Labour MPs suspended for various misdemeanours has been racking up steadily in recent months, not least Middlesbrough MP Andy MacDonald, who was punished for his rallying cry shortly after the October 7th terrorist attack in Israel.
Until all people, Israelis and Palestinians, between the river and the sea, can live in peaceful liberty. Free, free Palestine!
But earlier today, Labour announced it had restored the whip to Andy MacDonald after a full investigation. A party spokesman said the investigation concluded that he had not engaged in conduct that was against the party's rulebook, but reminded him of the importance of elected representatives being mindful not only of what they say in public, but how their words may be interpreted, especially in reference to controversial or emotive issues. The Chief Whip met with Andy following the outcome of the investigation and received assurances that he understands the need to be mindful about his future conduct. Well, is this what Sir Keir Starmer meant in the Commons today when he said that he cleaned his party up of extremists?
Shadow Foreign Secretary comparing Conservatives to Nazis, Mr. Speaker, and the man that he wanted to make Chancellor the man that he wanted to make Chancellor talking about lynching a female minister.
Mr. Speaker, the difference is he's scared of his party. I've changed my party.
You've changed it. Diane Abbott remains suspended after saying that Jews do not experience racism, while Starmer's old pal Jeremy Corbyn has also been banished alongside 7 other Labour MPs, including Kate Ossemore, who compared the Gaza conflict to the Holocaust. So tonight I'm asking, has the war in Gaza demonstrated Starmer's weak leadership? Debating this now is former Labour MP Ivor Kaplan and chairman of the National Jewish Assembly, Gary Mon. Gary, I'll start with you. Letting Andy MacDonald back into the party, is this just weak leadership?
I think it sets a very bad precedent. We have somebody who called, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." That is a blatant anti-Semitic slogan, because it essentially means the destruction of the State of Israel and either the murder or the removal of all Jews currently living there. It should not be tolerated. And furthermore, he also spoke in that clip about peaceful liberty, all people living in peaceful liberty. Does he not realise that to get peaceful liberty in the area requires the eradication of Hamas? And that is what Israel is doing at the moment, and it should be supported in continuing to do that.
Keir Starmer didn't want anyone to notice this. The Labour Party didn't want anyone to notice this. People, eagle-eyed, just saw on the parliamentary website that it looked like he got the whip back, and then we went to them, and then they said, oh, we'll have to check. And then a couple of hours later, they gave us that statement there. Why was he trying to sneak it under the radar if he didn't think it was a bit dodgy?
I'm not sure, Patrick, he was trying to sneak it under the radar any more so than everything else that goes on in Westminster. Lots of things go on, as we've discussed before, and that's just how it is sometimes. It's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It happens at Westminster. Just to say a bit about what Gary just said, you know, I didn't think that was a very clever comments that Andy MacDonald made. I could understand entirely why he was suspended. That suspension's been for 5 months. I can kind of have some sympathy with people wanting to get back into the party, like Diane Abbott does. And in that case...
Would you let Diane Abbott back in?
Sorry?
Would you let Diane Abbott back in?
I think I would let Diane Abbott back in at the moment. I think
it's not a changed Labour Party then, is it, Ivor?
Well, yes, it is, because there are literally thousands of people who are no longer in the Labour Party, but who were in the Labour Party in previous times. And those people have been expelled or taken out. I know
like
that
Diane Abbott.
My own area in the south that we've had to suspend and get out of the party. Lots and lots of people.
All right.
So there's been a change. The change isn't just about 190 MPs.
All right, I'll go over to Gary there. So we've got there someone who would be perfectly happy to allow Diane Abbott back in, who thinks Andy MacDonald should be allowed back in. Gary, your view on that as the chairman of the National Jewish Assembly. Change Labour Party.
I'm completely opposed to them coming back in. You see, Labour Party anti-Semitism is not just a matter for people in the Labour Party. Everyone in the country, every Jew in the country is going to be worried about it, irrespective of how they voted a general election, because it is a major political party and it should not tolerate anti-Semitism. And to let Diane Abbott, who said that Jews do not experience racism, back into the party is a tremendously retrograde step and will be condemned everywhere. And can I say one more thing on this? That at the moment, Labour have got about 200 members of Parliament. If they do as well in the election as the opinion polls say they're going to do, they're probably going to have around 400 members of Parliament. That's an extra 200 members of Parliament about whom we know very little. The Labour Party will, of course, say, well, they've been vetted. But how have they been vetted? They're very quiet about. And these are 200 unknown people, some of whom might well be Corbynistas or worse.
OK, Ivor, I mean, Tahir Ali wasn't particularly well vetted, was he? And that snuck through the net, and then we're in a situation now where, lo and behold, Andy MacDonald will let him back in. I don't think that's got anything to do, has it, Ivor, with the pressure from the left and the George Galloway issue?
Andy MacDonald was, I think, elected some time ago. But what I would say, and I can reassure Gary here, I do a lot of interviewing of candidates, particularly for parliamentary seats, and I have to tell you, we are vigorous in the due diligence that we do with people.
Did you interview Tahir Ali?
we've been looking in absolute about what we want people to be able to do. So I am really confident that for those who might win in a general election, that they will be good and solid candidates, as we've seen in previous times when Labour has been successful.
What do you make of that, Gary?
I think that in other political parties, the instances of anti-Semitism among members of Parliament or candidates is incidental and isolated. I fear that in the Labour Party, looking at so many past examples, it's endemic. We had a situation recently where 56 Labour members of Parliament called for a ceasefire. Which would essentially...
I'll let you come back on it, Ivor, don't worry.
True.
Ivor, I'll let you come back on it. Just stop, Ivor, stop. I'll let him finish and then I'll let you come back on it, all right?
Yeah. We've had 56 Labour members of Parliament call for a ceasefire, which essentially would give victory to Hamas. We've had Labour members of Parliament only 18 months or so ago actually putting down an early day motion saying that Israel massacres Palestinian journalists. When we still have Jeremy Corbyn in the Labour Party, there is still a tremendous amount of anti-Semitic activity within Labour. In other parties, it's isolated. In Labour, it's endemic.
All right, look, there is quite a bit to come back on there, Ivor. Yeah, go on.
Well, firstly, Jeremy Corbyn isn't in the Labour Party anymore, and it's been clear that he won't be standing for the Labour Party in any circumstance. So that just isn't true, what you just said. The second thing is that, but for me, it's all about you can talk about those people, who've got a view. And I've said constantly to people, you don't need to express these views out in the open. You can have a view, you can talk to the Chief Whip about it. There's lots of things you can do.
Hang on a minute. No, hang on a minute. What do you mean they can have these views but don't express them out in the open? Views like what? Views like I mentioned Zahir Ali earlier. What about Azhar Ali? You know, what about those views? So he should have had those views, that it was essentially a Jewish conspiracy, the October the 7th attack. But as long as he didn't say that out loud, he was all right to stand for Labour.
What I am saying is there are, in any of the parties, sorry, including the Tories here, there are different views that people can have, and they can talk to other members of the party. What I'm really saying is that in the main, if you go out in London on a Saturday, as I've done a few times to watch what is going on in the demonstrations, I see people there who are nothing to do with the Labour Party. And out they are telling us how Hamas should have this, how Hamas should have that.
Did you vet Azhar Ali?
People who are the real problem.
Right, look, Ivor, did you have anything to do with the vetting process for Azhar Ali?
No.
Not at all, because I know you said earlier that you're across some of the vetting and stuff. So you had nothing
I do that, but mainly south east, southwest.
Right. Okay.
What amazes me is this seems to let in Jew hatred as a conceivable view that Labour MPs can have. This worries me immensely.
No, I'm not.
I actually wish Sir Keir Starmer all the best of luck in ridding his party of anti-Semitism. It's in everyone's interest. But when you have Jew hatred as an acceptable view, that is not on.
All right, that's not what I said either. You're making it up as you go along.
I think what he's getting,
if you like, wherever you like, but that you are just making it up as you go along.
I think what he's coming back to, Ivor, is the idea that
I think there's too many
understanding.
examples.
All right, Gary. Look, my understanding, Ivor, and this very final word on this because we are over now. My understanding, what I took from what you said, if I'm being really honest, is that you did say that it's all right for people to have certain views behind closed doors as long as they don't say them publicly, and I think that is quite fruity.
That happens all the time on lots of issues, both in both parties about different matters. Yes, it's uncomfortable sometimes, but what you don't need is people like Andy McDonald to say what he said in that public domain.
All right, OK. Both of you, thank you very, very much. All right, look, who do you agree with as Labour reinstates the whip to Andy McDonald after he was suspended for proclaiming from the river to the sea? Is this evidence of weak leadership from Starmer? Sam says it's more evidence that the Labour Party hasn't changed. Anti-Semitism is still a problem, and Starmer is a liar if he says it's not. John says this is weak leadership. It certainly won't help Jewish people feel welcome to the Labour Party. And Stephen, also on Twitter, says both the Tories and Labour are two cheeks of the same backside. Yeah, Galloway has been coining this phrase. I am not, by the way, Stephen, alluding you to George Galloway, but there we go. The Tories have a problem with Islamophobia. Labour have a problem with anti-Semitism. Tolerance and civility are the real victims. Right, look, 92% of you think this is weak leadership from Starmer. 8% of you say it's not. Coming up, yet another royal rumble is brewing as Harry and Meghan tonight dramatically deny that they stuck the boot into the Princess of Wales and her Photoshop fail in the US press. I will speak to former BBC royal correspondent Michael Cole shortly, but next.
One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, right?
That was Labour donor and Green fanatic Dale Vince giving Hamas a free pass last year. So should Starmer return millions of pounds that he's given in Labour donations too, just like Keir is demanding the Tories do over their own donor race row? And are we actually seriously going to get a May election? Stay tuned.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Tomorrow, most of us will see some rain. It's going to be another very mild day, particularly across parts of England and Wales. Today, we've had this weather front straddling the country. It's been providing cloud and outbreaks of rain. Some very windy conditions across northern Scotland. They'll slowly ease through the night, as will the showers. But this zone of damp weather will persist, staying pretty soggy over North Wales, northwest England. The rain just creeping back across Northern Ireland and eventually into southern Scotland by dawn. Much of the south and east of England staying dry, very mild here, 9 or 10 the low in towns and cities. Colder across Scotland, a touch of frost possible in the countryside here, but we should start with some sunshine. Still a few showers over the Northern Isles. Rain spreading quickly through the central belt. A wet morning for Northern Ireland. That rain slowly pushes northwards. A few showers over northern England, some heavy showers for Wales and southwest England through the middle of the day. A few getting further east, but much of eastern England, I suspect, will stay dry. And with some sunshine here, we could reach 17, maybe 18 Celsius. A very mild day here, but feeling colder with the wet weather across Scotland. Some snow over the hills. That's still around on Friday morning, but slowly it should start to pull away, and then we're left with bright spells and showers for many. Still quite breezy, and notice the winds coming down from the north across northern Scotland, so a real chill here with temperatures only 6 or 7 Celsius. Again, no further south, pretty mild for the time of year, 15 or 16 degrees.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 p.m.
I've got an idea. I think that all 30-year-olds should be given £10,000 from the banks of baby boomers. We've got a situation in this country now where millennials are the first generation in modern times expecting to be poorer than their parents. We, as 30-year-olds like me, are half as likely to own a house as people my age 30 years ago. In fact, the cost of a home in Britain compared to average incomes has as big a gap today as it did, wait for it, in the 1860s. It is a Dickensian situation.
Now, I'm sorry about the housing crisis for your generation.
You're not, though, are you?
No,
because you're proprofiting from it.
I'm profiting from it. Don't be ridiculous.
The house prices now, compared to that period.
If this is the case, Benjamin...
Have incomes gone up that fast?
To penalise and punish the elderly when they have worked all their lives to put into the system and say it's your fault, whingy, whiny, we're going to be envious...
We're being punished.
No, well, by the politics, so be the change you want to see in the world.
Taxes, I am actually, and I'm about to tell you about the change I want to see in the world.
Are you good? As long as it's not whining about it.
I'm going to stop whining about it, but we are being taken advantage of at the moment to profit, to help the old. Most of taxpayers' money is spent in two departments, the NHS, so the health department, and the Department for Work and Pensions. Those departments disproportionately serve the older population. Now, I've got no issue with that, but let's not pretend that it is not young working people that is paying for the public services for old people. So actually, we are having it hard, and I just look at the future, and we see a future of perpetually higher taxes to pay for this increasing ageing population, a shrinking labour force, and you're here saying we've got nothing to worry about.
The young stop voting for mass immigration parties. The young stop voting for parties that don't build houses.
Immigrants actually pay taxes, pensioners don't.
Welcome back. It's Patrick Christys tonight. We're on GB News, and coming up, are Harry and Meghan massive hypocrites, OK? They have denied some allegations recently, but do we believe them? But first, Rishi Sunak is tonight facing increasing pressure to hand back Frank Hester's £10 million donation after the businessman made, apparently, racist comments about Diane Abbott, with the Scottish Tories now demanding the Prime Minister carefully reviews the donation. Grief. The round dominated PMQs today. Starmer joined in on the calls to hand back the cash.
How low would he have to sink? What racist, woman-hating threat of violence would he have to make before the Prime Minister plucked up the courage to hand back the £10 million that he's taken from him?
The gentleman apologised genuinely for his comments, and that remorse should be accepted.
But while Starmer was busy giving Sunak a hard time, it's emerged that Labour donor Dale Vince, who's given Starmer's party more than £2 million reportedly, made this outrageous claim last year.
Terrorist attack from Hamas, Palestine defending itself.
I think one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, right? That's how it works. Look what's happening in Palestine. Millions of people living in an open prison.
Freedom fighters? Hamas? I'm joined now by the former Conservative Minister Anne Widdecombe. Anne, well, who should hand back the donation first then, Starmer or Sunak?
Neither of them is complete nonsense. Unless the money itself is corrupt, then there's no reason for them to hand it back. But what I really objected to, and we all saw the snippet of Starmer saying it, was he talked about threats of violence, which presumably was when the donor said that Diane Abbott should be shot. Now, Keir Starmer is of a generation to know very well that that is an expression which our entire generation used, and his, when somebody had done something stupid. Now, I could understand if a 20-year-old said, oh, that's a terrible thing to say, but actually it was in common parlance, and it means nothing. It's just a metaphor for saying how stupid she is. That's all it is.
And you don't think, then, that either of them should hand that money back? I mean, one apparently is called Hamas, a freedom fighter organisation, and the other one, does stand accused of, well, racist remarks. I mean, you don't think it's... there's a case there to be had, well, we don't want this dirty money.
Well, there's nothing dirty about the money unless, as I say, it was corruptly obtained. One has apologised, the other has not, which, and I just think this is yet another artificial fuss. I mean, we've got the NHS in chaos, we've got dreadful education in this country, our defences are worn down to the bone, and nobody is doing anything about it. And we want to worry about somebody making rude remarks about somebody else.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it's a good, useful distraction technique, isn't it, really, to be talking about that a lot of the time and not actually talking about the fact that we haven't given another penny to our defence budget and our NHS is knackered and on its knees and that we haven't got enough places for kids to go to school and we're not doing anything about that. I do want to talk to you about Keir Starmer again, because Guardian journalist Owen Jones has the details of a conversation between the Labour leader and Diane Abbott, who twice today asked Starmer to give her the Labour whip back. But it appears he declined to do so. Indeed, Abbott herself has confirmed that this discussion did take place. Anne, should Diane Abbott get the Labour whip back?
Well, look, that's honestly a matter for the Labour Party. She did say something appalling. I mean, this time I don't think you can dismiss it as just some sort of metaphor. I mean, she did say that Jews hadn't suffered racism, and that is appalling. And given the terrible trouble that the Labour Party has at the moment with anti-Semitism, it might send out all the wrong signals if he did restore the whip. But it is a matter for the Labour Party. It's for Starmer to take his decision. And then stand by it. If he's going to take it, stand by it, whatever it may be.
I mean, she is, by the sounds of it, essentially begging for the whip back. She wasn't called in Parliament today, which I know has caused a heck of a lot of controversy. I was wondering whether or not Lindsay Hoyle, after, allegedly doing Keir Starmer a massive favour the other week over the Gaza vote, thought he'd do the Tories a big favour today. But, do you think that Starmer might cave, though? I mean, he's U-turned on pretty much everything else, all right? He keeps saying he's a changed Labour Party. We've just been talking about the fact that Andy McDonald's managed to worm his way back in, and the Labour Party wanted to sweep that under the carpet, by the way. I mean, that was a remarkable exchange that we had with the Labour Party earlier today, people of this show going to them and them not giving us a yes or a no for ages, it being on the parliamentary website, and then before you know it, it's, oh, yeah, we've reviewed it, and now he's back in. I mean, is this a changed Labour Party, seriously? And, I wonder if it...
It's not a change. It's not a changed Labour Party. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, you can just see from the attitude that there has been towards Gaza and the huge pro-Palestinian or pro-Hamas rather element in the Labour Party. So I don't think it's a change Labour Party. I don't think it's worth anybody voting for it who is concerned about anti-Semitism. Now, you know, Diane Abbott has been an MP for several decades, got a long record of service. I'm sure that Keir Starmer will consider that. But at the end of the day, he's got to ask himself, you know, would anybody in the Labour Party endorse those remarks that Diane Abbott made? And if the answer is no, then, you know, that's his...
I worry that you might find out the answer is yes, actually. But speaking when she was suspended in August 2023, Diane Abbott said, these errors arose in an initial draft being sent, but there is no excuse, and I wish to apologise for any anguish caused. Racism takes many forms. It's completely undeniable that Jewish people have suffered its monstrous effects, as have the Irish people, travellers and many others. Now, look... This is something I'm keen to talk to you about. Torrid few days for the Prime Minister. Lee Anderson defected to Reform. Now, you know, he's embroiled in this old donor race row, isn't he? On Monday night, apparently, he was hauled into... This is Rishi Sunak. He was hauled into tense private talks with Tory MPs from the party's all-powerful backbench 1922 committee, who allegedly warned Sunak against a May general election. A senior Tory source says 7 months is a long time in politics. Just imagine if England won the Euros and Team GB got a load of golds at the Olympics. Well, I mean, yeah, well, that's ridiculous, by the way. But, I mean, relying on Gareth Southgate for your premiership, I mean, pun intended, is a ridiculous thing to do. Should there be a May election, Anne?
I don't believe there will be a May election. I mean, I say bring it on as soon as possible, but I don't believe there will be one. For the very simple reason that, first of all, if you know you're going to lose, and Sunak does, you don't hand government to the opposition. You string it out. Secondly, of course, there is this sort of political McCorberism. And you think, well, if you don't have it till the last minute, something might turn up, or even something will turn up, you know. But if they're relying on victory in the Euros for victory in a general election, then all I can say is they're even, you know, further than I thought before, in a just completely chaotic spin with no sense at all.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that Rishi Sunak might lose on penalties would be very, very adept, wouldn't it? Yeah, if I was him as well, I would absolutely... I mean, I'm not saying he should do this, but I would absolutely wait until January. You've got to look at it. Prime Minister from 2022 to 2025, it looks better on the tombstone, frankly, than anything else. Being completely selfish. And thank you very much. We will have to leave it there. Former Conservative Minister Anne Whittaker. What a legend. Now, coming up, I sit down with former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick about soft-touch plans to give £3,000 to every migrant, failed asylum seeker, who agrees to go to Rwanda.
We're now seeing today the fact that the bill that's about to leave Parliament isn't good enough, doesn't do the job, won't secure our borders, and that's a great shame.
Other than that, he's a massive fan of it. But next, Harry and Meghan tonight dramatically denied that they briefed US press that they'd never be so stupid to have fallen victim to Kate Middleton's Photoshop fail. Do we believe them? Do we believe they didn't give Kate a kicking in her hours of need? Former BBC Royal correspondent Michael Carr will be here with his expert take. I'll ask him, should the Sussexes have sent well wishes to the Princess of Wales? Where's that? Stay tuned.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Household energy bills will fall by £238 per year. Good news. An average of £20 a month. That's as Ofgem unveils its new energy price cap. So joining us in the studio is GB News economics and business editor Liam Halligan.
The Ofgem energy price cap, that's the regulated amount that energy suppliers are allowed to charge, will fall from £1,928 a year to £1,690. That's from April the 1st. That's a drop of about 12%. That should save the typical household 20 quid a month. Prices are cheaper than they were, but they're still very elevated by historic standards. Certainly if you're an American household, a French household, even a Spanish or an Italian household, you're paying a lot less for your electricity and your energy in general than you are here in the UK. The energy companies have been a bit tricksy with the government because while they are lowering the energy price cap and the headlines are, well, your energy bills are coming down, blah, 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 the energy providers have actually chiselled out from Ofgem the permission to charge households an extra £2.33 a month on average. And the energy companies say that is money which they need, the energy companies, in order to support households who have got big debts on their energy bills. I don't know about you, but whenever I talk to people down the pub about energy bills, many of them say, well, the energy company's got like £2,000 of my money and it won't give it back to me. What's going on here? So there are lots of concerns about customer balances with energy companies, and it's also worth saying that as part of this announcement, the bit that no one will notice is that the energy companies are being able to charge all households to try and flatter the energy companies' balance sheets, which to me, on first reading, seems a bit odd.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's Live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's Live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight on GB News. Coming up, former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick rages at plans to pay migrants $3,000 to leave to Rwanda. But first, it's time for former BBC Royal correspondent Michael Cole. Harry and Meghan have broken their silence on the Princess Kate photo editing scandal, denying that sources inside their camp made outrageous comments comparing Meghan and Kate. A source reported to be close to the Sussexes told US publication Page 6 if Harry and Meghan had ever encountered the same issue, they would have been annihilated. This isn't a mistake Meghan would ever make. But the Sussexes have insisted, through their spokesperson, with respect to Page 6, that did not come from us. Do we believe them? Still, no well wishes for Princess Kate on her recovery from surgery, then? Well, Michael, your reaction?
Well, Patrick, good evening. There is hope for humanity yet. The well of human kindness is not quite dry because the Duke and Duchess of Sussex in California have let it be known through their spokesman that they are not gloating over the present difficulties being experienced by Princess of Wales because of the faked photo fiasco. Oh, no, indeed. They didn't say those words. But as you've just pointed out so skillfully, what that message didn't contain was any words of goodwill, of comfort, of family feeling or concern for the Princess of Wales as she recovers from what was quite clearly serious abdominal surgery back in January. They've never issued one single word of comfort to her. And when you consider that after the Prince and Princess of Wales were married in 2011 and living at Kensington Palace, Prince Harry was almost a fixture there. He was there every day. The three of them were very friendly. Kate, who we see there in happier times with her husband, got on terribly well with Harry, and he really, well, I think you can say he loved her. Of course, all that happened when Meghan entered the scene, and we all know the sad story that has evolved ever since. But, of course, they want to distance themselves from those words which were reported because they're very hurtful and they're very unkind. And they were...
But can we believe them, though, Michael? Michael, seriously, can we believe them? I mean, after everything, it's all very well and good saying, hey, that didn't come from us. But, I mean, Yeah, really? Is that true? I mean, there was all this talk about, oh, we didn't have anything to do with Ahmed Scobie.
Yeah,
oh, we didn't have anything to do with a load of stuff, and it's turned out they did.
Well, I'm quite sure that Schadenfreude, a German word which is understood universally to mean enjoying other people's failures or discomfort, is not unknown at Montecito. And of course, the two couples have been at daggers drawn for a long, long time now. I suppose it would be less than human if they didn't take some satisfaction in seeing the Princess of Wales, who both of them have gone out of their way to criticise. And in one book written by their spokesman on Earth, amanuensis Ahmed Scobie, accuses quite bluntly the Princess of Wales of exhibiting racist comments or racist attitudes towards Meghan Markle, which of course is the most egregious and deadly, toxic allegation to make, because it's very, very difficult to disprove. You have to prove a negative. I am not a racist, and it's very unfair. So
you mentioned toxic there, Marco.
Look,
you mentioned toxic there, right? And you know, everyone's got relatives. Every family's got relatives they don't particularly get on with. Okay, you find out that somebody is very unwell, and every indication is that somebody is even more unwell than you were initially told. And you do not release a statement to say, we wish Kate well. Oh, I think that's disgusting.
Would you know something? It was the point I was going to come on to, because even in families where there is a falling out, when there is serious trouble, when the back's to the wall, when people are really up against it, even the worst rows are patched up and people come together. And I think it is really quite deplorable that Prince Harry, who was so close to his brother, and to the Princess of Wales, and you know, I cannot stop thinking about their mother, the late and much missed Diana, Princess of Wales. She would be so upset about this. She thought those boys would always be there for each other and stick up for each other. And to see what has happened, she would be distressed in the extreme, were she here. I'm so glad, in a way, she's not here to see it, because it would break her heart.
No, indeed. Look, I'm sure Meghan and Harry, well, they have said that they were not in any way linked to that particular source, and that this isn't them, you know, briefing against Kate, etc. Does it not say a lot, maybe, about the company that you keep, though, that somebody might look at this opportunity and decide, in Kate's hour of need, to go, oh, this would never have happened to Meghan? I mean, I'm sorry, but taking PR advice from people who've gone from being, you know, darlings of Britain to, some people would say, have been about as popular as a fart in a lift, OK? It's not really taking PR advice from the right people, surely.
No, I think a recent survey showed that 66% of the population, 2/3 of the British population, actively disliked Meghan. Strangely enough, in America, the approval rating for Catherine, Princess of Wales, was 35%. That means 35% more people liked her that didn't like her. And Prince William was the most popular man in America, in the whole world, on 72%.
All right.
So we know who's winning the PR battle, if that's what it is.
We're just going to have to leave it there, Mark. Sorry, a bit squeezed for time, but thank you very much. That is the former BBC hero correspondent Michael Cole. Coming up, just what the hell is going on at the whole funeral directors has been mysteriously probed by cops. 2 people have been bailed, 35 bodies of the deceased have been removed from the building. What's happening? But next, I sit down with former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick.
What we're hearing today is something very different, much weaker, and is going to undermine the very principle that lies behind the policy.
£3,000 for migrants to go to Rwanda. You couldn't make it up. And the civil service taking our government to court. This is Patrick Christys Tonight. We're only on GB News. Now it's your weather with Alex.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Tomorrow, most of us will see some rain. It's going to be another very mild day, particularly across parts of England and Wales. Today, we've had this weather front straddling the country. It's been providing cloud and outbreaks of rain. Some very windy conditions across northern Scotland. They'll slowly ease through the night, as will the showers. But this zone of damp weather will persist, staying pretty soggy over North Wales, northwest England. The rain just creeping back across Northern Ireland and eventually into southern Scotland by dawn. Much of the south and east of England staying dry, very mild here, 9 or 10 the low in towns and cities. Colder across Scotland, a touch of frost possible in the countryside here, but we should start with some sunshine. Still a few showers over the Northern Isles. Rain spreading quickly through the central belt. A wet morning for Northern Ireland. That rain slowly pushes northwards. A few showers over northern England, some heavy showers for Wales and southwest England through the middle of the day. A few getting further east, but much of eastern England, I suspect, will stay dry. And with some sunshine here, we could reach 17, maybe 18 Celsius. A very mild day here, but feeling colder with the wet weather across Scotland. Some snow over the hills. That's still around on Friday morning, but slowly it should start to pull away, and then we're left with bright spells and showers for many. Still quite breezy, and notice the winds coming down from the north across northern Scotland, so a real chill here with temperatures only 6 or 7 Celsius. Again, no further south, pretty mild for the time of year, 15 or 16 degrees.
Looks like things are heating up. Box.
Want to be a winner?
You've won £18,000.
I'm flipping heck. I don't know what to say.
Enter our massive spring giveaway with 3 big seasonal prizes to be won. There's £12,345 in tax-free cash to give your finances a spring boost. We'll also send you on a shopping spree with £500 worth of vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. You'll also get a garden gadget package. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight, £3,000 for illegals to go to Rwanda.
We're now seeing today the fact that the bill that's about to leave Parliament isn't good enough, doesn't do the job, won't secure our borders, and that's a great shame.
But are woke civil service activists threatening to take the government to court and...
You silent or were you silenced?
Harry and Meghan refuse to wish Kate well. Also, what on earth is going on in Britain's funeral parlours? Have you got someone else's ashes on your mantelpiece? I've got tomorrow's newspaper front pages with editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, activist Adam Brooks, and author Rebecca Reid. And this is weird.
Have somebody that was being nasty, talking and they're not vile ones, they won't be in my hot tub.
Get ready, Britain, here we go. Are we being ruled by the deep state? Next.
Good evening, it's 10 o'clock. I'm Sophia Wenslet in the GB newsroom. Your top story this hour. Diane Abbott, the MP at the centre of a growing racism row, has accused both the Conservatives and Labour of failing to deal with racism. Writing in the Independent, the former Labour MP said Tory reluctance to call out racism and sexism is hardly surprising, but she said she was disappointed in the Labour Party for being equally reluctant. It's after the Conservatives' biggest donor, Frank Hester, allegedly said that the former Labour MP made him want to hate all black women and that she should be shot. Mr Hester says he's deeply sorry for the remarks. At Prime Minister's Questions today, Sir Keir Starmer confronted Rishi Sunak over the comments, pressing him to return Mr Hester's £10 million donation. The Prime Minister acknowledged Frank Hester's comments were wrong and racist, but declined to say if his donations would be returned, instead calling out what he said were double standards in the Labour Party.
I'm absolutely not going to take any lectures from somebody who chose to represent an anti-Semitic terrorist group, Hizb ut-Tahrir, who chose to serve a leader who let anti-Semitism run rife in this Labour Party. Those are his actions, those are his values, and that's how he should be judged.
Rishi Sunak speaking there. Now, Andy MacDonald has had the Labour whip restored after he was cleared of breaking party rules by using a controversial slogan at a pro-Palestine rally. The MP for Middlesbrough was suspended in October after he used the phrase "from the river to the sea" during a speech at a pro-Palestine event. The words refer to the land between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean, which many find offensive because it appears to refer to all of Israel. A Labour spokesperson said Mr MacDonald had been reminded that elected representatives must be mindful of how their words are interpreted. Migrants who've been refused asylum in Britain could be offered thousands of pounds to move to Rwanda. The voluntary scheme would be separate to the Safety of Rwanda Bill, which is facing delays due to a series of amendments. It would extend current returns policies, which sees some migrants offered £3,000 to return to their country of origin. And the First Minister of Wales has criticised Boris Johnson's leadership during the COVID pandemic. Mark Drakeford said the former Prime Minister was like the absent manager of a football team and accused him of not taking the pandemic seriously. Speaking at the COVID inquiry, he also said Mr Johnson was deliberately unclear as to whether some rules only applied to England. The Welsh Conservatives accused Mr Drakeford of using the inquiry to attack his political opponents and called for a Wales-specific inquiry. And for the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's back to Patrick.
Is Britain being run by a woke, activist, deep state civil service? Today, it's emerged that senior civil servants and their union are threatening to take government ministers to court if they are made to implement the Rwanda plan. The same civil service that got Dominic Raab sacked for bullying despite him never shouting or swearing at anyone, even when one idiot nearly accidentally handed Gibraltar back to the Spanish. The same civil service that published a tweet slagging off Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings. The same civil service that employs a bloke as a diversity chief who was out campaigning for George Galloway in Rochdale.
Stand for humanity, stand for Palestine, stand for George Galloway.
The same civil service that listed a change of government as its top wish for 2024. The same civil service that granted a Palestinian living in Israel asylum in Britain because it viewed Israel as an apartheid state, which is completely against government policy. They also keep offering asylum to people from Rwanda, hammering home the point that the wokies don't think it's safe. And then, shock horror, it's emerged that the government is going to offer failed asylum seekers £3,000 to voluntarily go to Rwanda. This is clearly because the government has realised this is the only way they'll ever be allowed to send someone there. It's a farce. Earlier, I spoke to former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick. Look, I started by asking him about the Cash for Rwanda lunacy.
Well, look, this is a tacit admission by the government that the Rwanda bill that they've proposed, against the advice of myself and over 60 Conservative MPs who tried to put forward a better, stronger bill, won't work. It is an admission that they cannot remove the illegal migrants who are coming here at scale and at pace, as they promised to do, and instead are going to have to resort to paying people to voluntarily leave to Rwanda. The Rwanda policy is all about creating a strong and sustainable deterrent based on detaining people upon arrival and then forcibly removing them to Rwanda. I'm afraid what we're hearing today is something very different, much weaker, and is going to undermine the very principle that lies behind the policy.
I asked him if this could actually lead to more channel crossings.
Well, I think it's very naive to assume that someone who has come here to the UK, who we then tell that we're very unlikely to be able to remove them back home to their home country for various reasons, and offer to pay them to go to Rwanda, would be likely to accept that. The people who have designed this latest policy, I'm afraid, don't understand what we're up against and what we need to do as a country to secure our borders and to deliver this policy. And it's a great shame because the Rwanda policy is very important. It's a critical part of our plan to secure our borders. It's one that if we can succeed will be copied by other countries elsewhere in Europe and indeed around the world. This is a backward step and I hope the government will think twice.
I put it to him that the civil service was threatening to take ministers to court if they try to actually enact the Rwanda plan.
Well, look, I believe in parliamentary sovereignty, and Parliament dictates the law of the land. Ministers then implement it and make decisions, and then the civil service have to get on and deliver them. And I'm confident that the civil servants in the Home Office will agree and will get on and make sure that these flights go ahead. I've seen the letter from the Civil Service Union and I disagree with it entirely. I hope this doesn't become an issue. What we've all got to do now as a country is deliver for the public. That's what really matters. And the public's view is very clear. They want us to stop the boats. They want us to do whatever it takes.
Well, the current incarnation of the Conservative Party is unbelievably wet and weak, with the exception, obviously, of Robert Jenrick and a few others. But there is obviously a layer of civil servants behind them who appear to be left-leaning activists, doing everything they can to block anything they disagree with. But let's get the thoughts of my panel now. It's editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. I've also got businessman and activist Adam Brooks and highly successful author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Adam, the idea that the civil service union could take ministers to court over being asked to enact a policy is nuts, I think.
It's absolutely unthinkable. Again, what Robert said there, that they are there to do their job. And I believe if they refuse to do their job, they should be sacked. And look, I'm so angry at this illegal immigration situation at the moment. I believe it's a national emergency, and I think a lot of people do, that if they refuse to do their job and stop this, they should be arrested themselves for not doing their job. At the end of the day, we are sending a signal. This paying migrants to go elsewhere. We are sending a signal to the rest of the world that we've got this free cash that we could just give away. Let's remember, this £3,000 comes from you, me, you know, and the taxpayer. This is not...
Me?
And you.
I pay taxes.
My next bit, if I couldn't turn around. Look, the taxpayers are paying twice for these people. You know, we're housing them for their free housing, their free healthcare and whatever. And now, what? We're offering them our money.
To Rwanda.
Yeah,
well,
exactly that.
It's a package holiday, isn't it?
It's a disgrace. We're a laughing stock. This country is an utter laughing stock. And Robert Jenrick, I wish Sunak could just go and we could have him as a temporary Prime Minister, because at the end of the day, he seems to understand the immigration problem. No one else does. And I think things have got to change.
One of the things that I will say is about Robert Jenrick there is, you know, we did have him as Immigration Minister and we had Suella Braverman as Home Secretary. And if both of those two people were saying anything like the stuff they've come out and said since, whilst they were in those jobs, and we still couldn't get stuff done, that really does imply...
They were shackled.
There is a woke deep state
I don't think there's a woke deep state. I think the civil service won't do anything that contravenes the ECHR, and they won't do anything that's ostensibly illegal. The civil service isn't there to deliver things just because we like them. If you voted to bring back capital punishment, it would pass in this country. The majority of people in this country would bring back hanging, and that doesn't mean the civil service should be like, do you know what, let's do a bit of hanging this month. But that's not their job.
Then they should resign.
It's not.
Then they should resign. They are paid to do a job.
If they don't want to do... So if you were asked... If you're being paid for a job to do something illegal, or that contravenes the ECHR... If it contravenes the ECHR, then it's the answer...
They're looking for loopholes. And if they were pro this policy, they wouldn't be looking for that loophole. They'd overlook it and sort of say, oh, no.
But who... Also, I think this is a very... The idea that there's a they for the civil service is it's one of the biggest employers in this country. There is no they.
It's a big blob. But
it's not. They are a diverse group of people with different opinions. But if you believe in the Rwanda plan, then this £3,000 thing might be the only thing that makes it work.
Well, no, because it's failed asylum seekers. OK, so what they're going to end up doing is anyone who's been told... I mean, the joke about this is we say, oh, your asylum claim's failed. We still can't deport them anyway.
Sure, but it's cheaper.
They could just choose to stay. And, you know, you look at the civil service. I rattled off a few examples. The civil service itself tweeted about what a bunch of jokers Boris Johnson...
I mean, they got hacked, in fairness. That was a hack.
OK.
That wasn't an official... that wasn't an official statement from the civil service.
That was someone within the civil service.
Oh, absolutely, yes, but it was somebody who lost...
But that's a sort of mindset.
But that's not an official statement from them.
It's actually got hacked by someone who actually works in the civil service, which kind of...
Or not. We don't know who tweeted that.
OK. And then you've got, you know, a variety of different activists in there. You've got, you know, I rattled off a few examples. I mean, the civil service is now... I mean, it's ridiculous that we could have a democratically elected government who's trying to enact policy that is popular with the country, and some people in the civil service could just say, no, I'll take you to court if you do that.
Yeah, that seems to be the whole reason d'etre, is just to slow things down. And I'm a really big believer that the government has to be more and more nimble as time goes by, because we've got rolling news, like we're on it right now. Everything's moving at 100 miles an hour, and the civil service just cannot get with the programme. They just slow everything right down, and it's incredibly damaging for democracy.
I also would just like to take you up on this thing about the will of the people, because only 42% of people agree that they're in favour of it, and only 1% of people think it will actually stop the boats. So it's not that popular.
Right, I'm telling you, about 80% of the people of this country, if not more, want to stop this illegal immigration problem.
Yeah, 100%, but this isn't the way to do it. Getting France...
How do we know?
If you're going to keep giving France money, then you need make them do their job and work out and break the human trafficking. Those are the ways to do it.
You also have to look at the kind of jobs, some of the kind of jobs that are on offer when it comes to our border security that are in the Home Office. You've got the asylum seeker resettlement team, OK? Well, who applies for those jobs? You know, people, with respect, Adam, I don't think you or I would apply for a job that is about necessarily resettling asylum seekers. I would imagine it would be more about whether or not we are vetting them properly with a view to getting them on planes to Rwanda. And you look at this, what kind of people...
Well, maybe you guys should do a career change then, if you think that's what it needs. Maybe you and Adam should go and do some work experience there for a bit.
Look, I wouldn't be against that, obviously, but, yeah.
Famously want to work from home all the time. You know, we've had this big battle to get them actually to go back to the office. They are actually just kind of slow and... I mean, they're wokies, really, aren't they?
I mean, they listed their top priority for 2024, Adam, as a change of government. That's the civil service, right? And so, you know, I mean...
Now, that's worrying. That's worrying that statements like that can come out.
But is that not the things they're going to have to deal with in 2024, not the thing that they want the most? They're saying they're prioritising the things that will affect and impact their workflow in 2024.
No, it's what they wished for.
Is a change of government.
No, it's what they wished for.
There's a double meaning to that. Can you imagine having to work with these people if you were a minister? It must be just so frustrating and even put you off taking on the job.
Well, I mean, they got rid of Dominic Raab, basically, for not shouting or swearing at everyone, despite the fact that someone nearly gave Gibraltar back to the Spanish. I mean, I'd go absolutely bonkers if someone did that.
But let's remember, this country is falling apart, and a lot of that is because of the civil service not doing their jobs or making mistakes.
I think we really need to...
We can't just blame ministers for everything, because, yes, they are getting wrong and, you know, a lot of things wrong, but the civil service have a big role in how this country is being governed.
If the Tories won, which is not going to happen, by the way, but if the Tories won at the next general election, you know, another 80 or 90 seat majority, and on their manifesto it said, flights to Rwanda, take off tomorrow, the day we get elected, do you think the civil service will block that? I do.
It depends if it contravenes the ECHR.
But why should that matter when it comes to what's democratically elected in this country?
Why should a foreign court... This is what so many of us have got the ump about. Why should this foreign court have any jurisdiction over us? If I was suddenly in government,
have things like maternity leave and fire doors. It's an essential piece of legislation that keeps you in this country safe.
We can do that ourselves.
But we won't. I don't trust the people in charge to do that.
Final point on this, Charlotte. I was speaking to a source again today, formerly in the Home Office, who was saying that, you know, the fact that the Home Office now has approved an asylum application for somebody who was a Palestinian living in Israel on the grounds that Israel has the potential to be an apartheid state. They're also approving constantly now, apparently, refugee and asylum application for people from Rwanda. It's like they're hammering home the point and completely swerving government policy, I think.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. In a word.
So the government isn't running this country. It's the civil service at the end of the day.
Then maybe we need a better government who can control the civil service.
What, a Labour government?
I mean, a
brilliant.
better government.
Brilliant.
OK, all right, well, look, another lively start. The Home Office spokesman said, or spokesperson, probably, if it's the Home Office, isn't it? In the last year, 19,000 people were removed voluntarily from the UK, and this is an important part of our efforts to tackle illegal immigration. We are exploring voluntary relocations for those who have no right to be here to Rwanda, who stand ready to accept people who wish to rebuild their lives and cannot stay in the UK. This is in addition to our Safety of Rwanda Bill and Treaty, which, when passed, will ensure people who come to the UK illegally are removed to Rwanda. OK, all right. Coming up, is Kate now getting a taste of the Meghan Markle treatment? My panel will get fired up on that when tomorrow's newspaper front pages land very shortly. But first, what is happening with the whole funeral directors that has been raided by police? 35 bodies been removed. It is a mystery that is gripping the nation. Frankly, I think this story should be front and centre of a lot of the news outlets. I'll tell you all about it. It's Patrick Christys tonight on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Absenteeism. And parents whose children miss a week or more of school face increased fines in a government drive to tackle absence.
This is another one of those government policies which has done nothing to improve the education of our children. In fact, since this was originally introduced some 10 years ago, the educational standards for our children, the 11-year-olds who can't read when they go up to primary school, have got worse and worse and worse. So it's not working. So what do? They just increase the fine, like that may make it work. Most of the parents who get fined are taking their kids out so they can take them on a holiday before the holiday companies push the prices up. And frankly, as a parent, if I've got a £600 discount on my holiday versus a £60 fine, I'm going to go for the £60
You'll suffer
fine.
the fine.
Yeah.
Let's not forget the other huge absence that children had recently during COVID. Schools were closed for months and months on end. Online learning was really not making up for that. So how can, it's very difficult for the government to say it was fine for us to take your kids out of school for months, but if you take them off for a few days to go to Disneyland, then you are the worst parent ever and you should be...
But also, it's the pandemic that caused some of the problems with absenteeism now.
Absolutely.
Because the mental health issues that some of these children now have.
And there are tens of thousands of children, they call them ghost children, that have simply disappeared from the school register. So it would be nice. It's really, really scary situation. I'm not saying that the government is, taking great measures.
Well, I think one of their plans is to have a national register, which would help with that.
Which would definitely help. But I think they can't deal with the real problem, so they're going after actually perfectly, decent parents who are just taking the odd day off, to save money, frankly.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
All right, welcome back. I have got tomorrow's newspaper front pages soon. But first, it's a story that's gripping the nation. 2 people have been arrested and since bailed after police officers removed 35 bodies and human ashes from legacy independent funeral directors in Hull in what police have labelled a truly horrific incident. A heartbroken daughter has told the Sun newspaper that she fears she kissed an empty coffin, while another found out that the ashes of their loved one, which they used to make jewellery, could belong to someone else. Humberside police have said their investigation is continuing and no individuals have been charged. But elsewhere, earlier this week, a London priest arrived to conduct a funeral service only to find the mourners were paid actors and the coffin was empty. Funeral directors are actually an unregulated industry in the UK, and the Daily Telegraph has reported tonight that 1 in 6 firms are never inspected. In light of that last story there, what is really going on in our funeral parlours? Could you have another person's relative's ashes in an urn on your mantelpiece? Just what is it like, though, to be an undertaker in this current day and age? Well, I am joined now, very gratefully so, by the co-owner of Bridie White Independent Funeral Services, Brian White. Brian, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show.
Good evening, Patrick.
For want of a better phrase, I'm hoping you might be able to lift the lid on the old undertaker business for us and funeral director business for us, if that's OK. So, I didn't realise it was unregulated. Can you talk me through that, please?
Well, we opened our funeral home 15 months ago, and it was news to me. The whole industry is unregulated and there's no licence required. You can voluntarily become a member of a trade association, but you don't have to do that. So basically anyone could open a funeral home whenever they like, including you, Patrick, if you wanted to.
Hey, if this all goes belly up, then I know what I'm doing. But no, on a serious note, there's a bit of gallows humour knocking about here, but on a serious note, I mean, when you, as a relative of somebody who's recently deceased, you employ people like yourself, and obviously you expect certain standards, and you just assume that's the way it is. Do you think, what is the industry like? Is it a bit cowboy-esque?
I can't speak for the entire industry, Patrick. I know what we do in our funeral home. I know how we treat our families. I know how we treat those that have passed away. So I can only speak on behalf of myself and what we do at Bridie White. What the rest of the industry does, I can't speak for them. I would hope, and my assumption would be, that they're all good people out there in the main and are doing the right thing. But I can't speak for the industry.
Can I ask what the process is? So when it comes to storing the deceased, obviously this depends on how big the funeral parlour is, no doubt, but you guys have presumably quite a regimented system of, well, we store people in this particular place, their funeral is on this date, and they need to either be in that coffin or at that crematorium by that time. I just don't understand how some people are messing this up.
So we'll bring somebody into our care here, and we'll bring somebody to our care, and they'll always stay in our premises. So in our funeral home, we have mortuary facility, so the people stay in our premises all the time. That's not the same for everybody else. Others do not necessarily keep people on the same premises. So we do. We'll agree with the family a date for the burial or the cremation and book that in and inform the family when it's happening, and the service will take place. The cremation will happen, we will collect the ashes, bring the ashes back, and continually speak to the family through the whole process about dates, about times, and they will come back in and collect the ashes at the end of that process.
In your view, is it quite difficult to get the wrong ashes?
In my view, yes, very difficult to get the wrong ashes.
It would be highly unusual, and just as a wider point, really, I suppose. I mean, there is, I imagine, there's going to be some quite loud clamour now to zone in a bit on the funeral parlour industry. And do you think there is a need for that?
Absolutely. I think the industry needs to be regulated. I think there should be inspections, ad hoc inspections, people turning up, and also families should be shown round a funeral home. A family should be able to walk into a funeral director and say, can you show me where you care for the deceased? And the funeral director should be able to say, yeah, I will show you immediately. If there's delays to that, or hold on, I'm not sure we can do that, that would cause me worry and doubt. So it should be available. It's almost we have an open door policy here. We encourage our families and we show them all around our funeral home. And we've been like that from day number one.
I mean,
I don't think that's the same about lots of others.
No, fair enough. There was a case recently, it was the second story that we mentioned there, which was about a body not being in the coffin. I mean, there was also apparently some paid actors at this funeral, so the mind does boggle. But I mean, again, you know, does the family not get to check, I suppose, that there's a body in the coffin?
Of course, the family wants to check, of course they can. If a family came in to us and said, oh, can I check my mum, dad, whoever is in the coffin, and the coffin had been sealed, we would reopen the coffin for them. It's never happened.
Right.
But of course, if the family wanted to do that, we'd say, yes, of course you can.
Yeah.
No, I don't understand the other story, the previous story. It sounded the whole thing was a bit of a setup with actors and a fake coffin. So I'm not really sure what that one's all about at all.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by it, obviously, but I think the more important thing is this idea of it being an essentially unregulated industry. I really appreciate you coming on tonight for us. Thank you very, very much. Really great to have you on.
Thank you, Patrick.
And as well, I suspect we might end up talking again at some point soon as, we wait and see how things develop. Thank you very much. That was the co-owner of Bridie White Independent Funeral Services, who run an upstanding funeral services. Right, OK, coming up. Harry and Meghan have tonight dramatically denied criticising the Princess of Wales in the US, insisting that quotes attacking Kate Middleton that were attributed to a source from the Sussex camp did not come from them. Can we really believe them? Is Kate getting the Meghan Markle treatment? But next, I will have all of your front pages, well, in just a tick. See you in a sec.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Tomorrow, most of us will see some rain. It's going to be another very mild day, particularly across parts of England and Wales. Today, we've had this weather front straddling the country. It's been providing cloud and outbreaks of rain. Some very windy conditions across northern Scotland. They'll slowly ease through the night, as will the showers. But this zone of damp weather will persist, staying pretty soggy over North Wales, northwest England. The rain just creeping back across Northern Ireland and eventually into southern Scotland by dawn. Much of the south and east of England staying dry, very mild here, 9 or 10 the low in towns and cities. Colder across Scotland, a touch of frost possible in the countryside here, but we should start with some sunshine. Still a few showers over the Northern Isles. Rain spreading quickly through the central belt. A wet morning for Northern Ireland. That rain slowly pushes northwards. A few showers over northern England, some heavy showers for Wales and southwest England through the middle of the day. A few getting further east, but much of eastern England, I suspect, will stay dry. And with some sunshine here, we could reach 17, maybe 18 Celsius. A very mild day here, but feeling colder with the wet weather across Scotland. Some snow over the hills. That's still around on Friday morning, but slowly it should start to pull away, and then we're left with bright spells and showers for many. Still quite breezy, and notice the winds coming down from the north across northern Scotland, so a real chill here with temperatures only 6 or 7 Celsius. Again, no further south, pretty mild for the time of year, 15 or 16 degrees.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
From 10 a.m. every Saturday, we want to make you think and we want to make you laugh.
So we will give you all the top stories.
Now we start with a story that has shocked the nation this week.
But we're also going to make it light and fun and bring some entertainment in to make your Saturday morning nice and restful.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's time to give you tomorrow's newspaper front pages tonight now. Let's do it. All right, we start with the Metro. Royals hat the races, Queen out front in Cheltenham style stakes, and shame on you, Ed Sheeran's verdict as a ticket-tout family. Sorry, shame of you. I'm not a fan. Ed Sheeran's verdict as ticket-tout family faces jail over $6.5 million scam. Is that a song or something? Am I missing something here?
Shape of You is the
Shape of You, right? Okay. Next, the Daily Express. Migrant flight plans to Rwanda in good place. Plans to send deportation flights to Rwanda are in a good place ahead of the bill becoming law next week. I think that's because we're paying them to go there, but there we are. The Eye. Tory reliance on race row major donor revealed. Well, it is interesting. 21% of the Conservative Party's election war chest comes from Frank Hester. So they obviously cannot get rid of this guy. Or, well, they could, but they certainly can't give him the money back. Let's go over to The Independent. Diane Abbott accuses the Tories and Labour of shocking racism. According to Abbott, everyone's a racist, essentially. MP tells The Independent that both parties were slow to call out vile abuse directed at her, as Rishi Sunak says racist donor has shown remorse, so the Tories won't return his 10 million quid. So there we go. That's the first lot of your front pages for you anyway. I am joined, of course, by the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Now, Harry and Meghan have tonight emphatically denied criticising the Princess of Wales in the US press over her Photoshop attempts, insisting quotes attacking Kate Middleton that were attributed to a source from the Sussex camp did not in fact come from them. The mystery source told Page Six magazine if Harry and Meghan had ever encountered the same issue, they would have been annihilated. This isn't a mistake Meghan would ever have made. It comes as the Times exclusively reveal in tomorrow's newspaper, so this is the new bit, that Prince Harry and his brother William are still so at loggerheads that they will both appear at an event to pay tribute to their late mother this week, but the Duke of Sussex will only speak after the Prince of Wales has left. So let me just reiterate that. There's an event to pay tribute to their late mum later this week, but the Duke of Sussex will only speak after the Prince of Wales has left. Wills will attend the Diana Legacy Award event in person on Thursday night in London and give a short speech. Harry is going to beam in over webcam from California, but will only speak, apparently, once William has actually left the building. Well, there we go. Charlotte, your thoughts?
That's just so petty, isn't it? But it's actually very convinced. I mean, I'm sure that has actually happened because Harry and William have stipulated it. That's the really sad and pathetic thing, is that they are, with everything else that's going on, they are still so pathetic that they can't appear even though Harry's in California at the same event unless it's separately. It's just madness. It's just typical.
Do you buy it, Adam, when Harry and Meghan say, oh, that source saying that Meghan would never have fallen foul of this Photoshop thing, with everything that Kate's got going on at the moment, obviously unwell, you know, them down denying that they've stuck the boot in.
Sorry.
No, go on. Yeah,
but that comment was so obviously them. It just read like exactly something they would say, and I know they're denying it now, but, I mean, it just smacks of Harry and Meghan.
I'm really not a Meghan fan, so, you know, I'm really not. I think she's brought a lot of all this on herself. She's ripped this family apart, in my opinion, and she's caused a lot of the attention that she's got from the British media. And I think Kate is the opposite. I think, you know, from what we see, she's done everything she's been asked for in the royal family. She comes across lovely from what we can see. You know, I'm not a big fan of Meghan at all.
People are convinced by Kate in a way that they're just not by Meghan.
But I agree, and I'm a big Kate fan, but I do think that's probably true, that that Meghan wouldn't have done this. Meghan is so publicity savvy and so aware of her own image. I don't think she's naive. I'm not sure she gets it right. I think she messes it up a lot, but I think that Kate is perhaps too naive and too innocent. If that photo was taken by her and she messed around with it and she gave it to AP, that comes from somebody who is in their core quite naive, and Meghan is not not naive.
Yeah, Meghan's obsessed with authenticity. She uses that word the whole time, but she's, of course, so incredibly inauthentic, and it drives us all crazy.
Are we really believing that she honestly took that photo and she doctored it herself? Come on. Why would she do that?
Because it is, if Harry and Meghan, which they deny, if it was indeed them, through a source, that have decided to give Kate a kicking at that particular moment in time, that is horrendous, right? That is absolutely awful, if that is the case.
But potentially shows how far removed they are and how little they communicate with the royal family, because possibly if they knew what was going on, they wouldn't have done that.
I think
sorry, so just to move it on slightly, is Harry right to say he's not going to speak at this event, even virtually, until William's left the building?
I'm very sure that's come from both of them, not just Harry. I'm absolutely sure it's both of them. But no, it's pathetic. This is not the behaviour of two grown-ups.
Apparently it really annoys William, the Diana stuff, sorry, but with the statue, do you remember the unveiling of the statue a couple of years ago? Because Harry, of course, has a 50% claim on his own mother, of course. Yeah. It's the one thing they can't really elbow him out of, and it drives the palace mad, probably.
I think, honestly, these scenes were so many in childhood, and there are so many ways in which Harry was portrayed to be the fun, naughty scamp, and William had... And they screwed those children up from the cradle, and it is no surprise that they are acting out now.
I think it's very indicative of how low the royal family has fallen, especially since the Queen died. It's falling apart, and it makes me wonder, in a decade's time, will we still have a royal family? Because these are doing their best to mess it all up.
There is a sense that things are falling apart. I think just everywhere at the moment, aren't there? But hey, we'll do our best to be the glue. Now, on that note, remember X Factor duo Jedward, the singing twin brothers with the world's biggest quiffs? Yeah, that's them. Well, it seems that they're throwing stones in glass houses by lashing out at old music boss mentor Louis Walsh by calling him an absolute weirdo, amongst other things, it must be said, in a blistering attack. Now, Jedward laid into Simon Cowell's old Irish pal after he slagged them off during his appearance on Celebrity Big Brother, calling the siblings vile whilst chatting with housemates.
What Jedward like?
They were vile.
But they've done well.
But they were great for the show. They did. I got 5 million quid for them.
You know.
I swear on my mother's life.
I wish I had a Jedward.
And they were vile.
There's a lot there, isn't there? There's a lot there. Anyway, this is the moment they took to Instagram to defend themselves. Weirdly, alongside surprise guest Gemma Collins of reality TV fame.
You never know what's going to happen. We were literally sitting down to have a dinner that Gemma cooked.
Roast for the boys.
We were in a good headspace. Everything was calm. We said, what's on television? We turn it on. We have somebody that was being nasty, talking and
they're not vile ones. They won't be in my hot tub.
Is this real life? Seriously, is this real life? This is bonkers. You got Louis Walsh there. They were vile. I took 5 million quid off them. On my mum's life, they were vile. And then all of a Jedward, they had a roast dinner. They did a video, TikTok thing. They were around having a roast dinner at Gemma Collins' house when he said this. And then they're in a hot tub. It's bonkers. And then they're going, oh, you know, you've done this to everyone. Girls Aloud, Boy Zone. What's the other one? Ronan Keating? Yeah, that's him. They're going to blow the lid off Louis Walsh, apparently. Of course, Louis Walsh is not here to defend himself because he's in Celebrity Big Brother. Anyway, the brothers later did take to Twitter to call Walsh an evil manipulator who had no brain between his two ears. There we go, from Jedward. It's time now for our Spring Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win gadgets, a shopping spree and 12,345, yes, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Spring Cash Boost. You've got to be in it to win it. And here's how you could be the next big winner.
Want to be a winner?
You've won £18,000.
I'm flipping it. I don't know what to say. Enter our massive spring giveaway with 3 big seasonal prizes to be won. There's £12,345 in tax-free cash to give your finances a spring boost. We'll also send you on a shopping spree with £500 worth of vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. You'll also get a garden gadget package. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, Text GB-WIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
OK, good luck. Coming up, we knew she was a disaster, but former Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has now been exposed for masking school kids during COVID purely for political point scoring. The grim details are revealed in tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass, and of course, a few more inside stories from the papers as well. Patrick Christys tonight on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Our woke army, a topic we talk about almost every day on this show. And now the decision to allow women to join frontline army fighting has been described as a failed exercise in political correctness, because government figures reveal that only 15 female recruits completed basic training for either infantry or tank units between January and September of 2023. A senior army officer says women are put off joining frontline units amid numerous allegations of rape and sexual discrimination. Well, joining me now is former NATO commander and Royal Navy officer Rear Admiral Chris Parry, CBE. Chris, always a pleasure to see you on the show. So here we are again, we're talking about diversity targets, and it seems that no matter how much they huff and they puff, young women simply aren't joining up.
Well, I mean, the life's not for everybody, Martin. It's not even for most men, to tell you the truth. This is a tough life, and it's a life that is geared towards the sort of physical and mental, I hesitate to say skills, but aptitudes that men have. You know, the idea that men and women are interchangeable in all these roles is ridiculous. What we need to have is all roles open to both men and women, and those that are suitable and have the aptitude for those jobs should be going into them. If we've got 15 women who are going into the infantry and the armoured corps, then that's fine. They're the ones that are suitable. It's as simple as that. Any idea that we should have quotas or any sort of percentage of people from certain ethnic groups or from women is ridiculous. We want the best people who serve our country and can defend it.
All right, welcome back. Now, I have one more front page for you. OK, so let's do it now. It's the Daily Mail. Sharp's back spending 3% on our defence. Minister calls for cash boost for more dangerous world. It is interesting, this. So, don't leave Britain defenceless is the Daily Mail campaign. Grant Shapps last night threw his weight behind the push to increase military spending to 3% of GDP. Bear in mind, in the budget, we didn't have anything, did we, about defence, and we've got an increasingly, fractious world. Grant Shapps last night threw his weight behind this pledge. In a bold move which put further pressure on Rishi Sunak, the Defence Secretary said more cash was needed to match the threat posed by Vladimir Putin. He says, I want a bigger budget. He travelled to Poland. He spoke exclusively to GB News, by the way, in Poland. We'll be showing you that on the channel tomorrow. So he says that Poland already spends 4% of GDP on defence. I think it is reasonable, really, to say that we should be doing a bit more. They've also got a comment piece at the top which says, gives Kate a break. Mail readers and columnists, Spell Mooney, unite to say, give Kate a break. So there we go. I'm going to focus in my panel now on the story that's on the front of The Independent. And it's Diane Abbott accuses Tories and Labour of shocking racism. So she's basically saying everyone's a racist. MP tells The Independent both parties were slow to call out the vile abuse directed at her. Diane Abbott has hit out. She was in PMQs today. She was not called to give a question. She, stood up, goodness knows how many times.
46, 48.
Oh, so we do know how many times. 48 times. 6, whatever. And wasn't called, which I do think, to be honest, was weird.
Yeah, I think it was weird. I think Lindsay Hoyle is on the back foot a little bit at the moment, for obvious reasons, and was basically just too afraid to let her.
I think it was...
I think Keir Starmer got in his ear again. Keir Starmer would not have wanted Diane Abbott to stand up.
Oh, I think he would.
Diane would actually
take down the Labour. I think he would
as well.
Well, I mean, obviously Starmer would deny it, but yeah,
No, I think Lindsay Hoyle is genuinely probably quite traumatised by the level of how he screwed up, and he's trying to be safer and overcorrect.
Oh, this is interesting because. I mean, look, by the way, can I just say, yesterday it emerged that there is going to be no Privileges Committee hearing into the allegations that Keir Starmer lent on the Speaker over that Gaza vote, OK? And the reasons for that are not because anyone thinks that there isn't a case to answer. It's because they said it's important that what goes on in the Speaker's room remains confidential, OK? So that's why there isn't. It's not an exoneration for Keir Starmer. We'll never know. We will never know.
But cake.
We
will. They will do something over cake.
But they're not really comparable. The Speaker's chamber has to. That is a different.
Well, you could argue that actually what allegedly happened now over the Gaza vote was actually much worse because it affected the way.
Sure, but they're just not comparable.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it was
one's
good,
cake and one is about caving into mob rule.
But one is a matter of public record and one is about retaining the secrecy of the chamber.
Absolutely. Anyway, but when it comes... So Lindsay Hoyle got massive... copped it big time over it. Now you're looking at a situation where I think it would have been more damaging for the Conservative Party had Diane Abbott stood up and spoken about a Conservative donor saying that he thinks she should be shot and all black women and all of that stuff. And that didn't happen. And you have to have it both ways, really. Do you think our Speaker's been compromised here? Now, he can't function as a result of all of this.
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely for many weeks to come, he'll just be quivering in his boots, won't he? And that's exactly what's happened, as we said. And but I do think, actually, he'll be thinking about the Labour Party as well, because she's a loose cannon and he didn't know what she would say on either side. But you're probably right. He's probably more worried that he didn't want to offend the Conservatives again. So, apparently, this is according to a transcript which Diane Abbott has confirmed, she was saying to Keir Starmer, you could give me the whip back. And he was saying, no, don't do it. Do you think he will?
I don't know.
You think he should?
No, I don't think he should at all, because I don't agree with her past comments, and I think she's a loose cannon, and a big party that Labour shouldn't have someone like her as an MP. But who knows with Keir Starmer? If he thinks it'll help them their election chances, of course he will.
Yeah. What about your view on that?
No, I don't think he should. I think he's gripping on to his reputation for having purged anti-Semitism from the party, and if he lets her back in, he's letting anti-Semitism back in.
He's let another one back today.
I think I think what she said was more egregious and a clear-cut case. What she said, there is no defence for.
Well, this is just to kind of follow up. It's all linked, this. So the latest news tonight, and it is on the front of the eye, is Frank Hester, this donor, donated 10.1 million quid to the Tories last year. And it shows, apparently, that 21% of the Tories' election funding is this. So, I mean, they can't get rid of him, can they, even if they wanted to?
No, but also, if you start scratching at who donates to political parties, there's badness on both sides. So neither party can throw stones, and they just need to accept that a lot of the time it comes from ideal people. But Labour's not perfect on this front either, so they're not going to start...
Didn't Labour accept 500,000 from a Chinese Communist Party or something like that?
No, not from the Chinese Communist Party.
No. I get what you mean. There were stories doing the rounds about Labour's, or people linked with the Labour Party. You might have had a link with the Communist Party. I do get what you mean, but
they have not accepted.
Did that get given back or not?
Well, no, and I think everybody's accepting that both parties take money from people they shouldn't, and nobody's giving them money back.
What's funny about Frank Hester is of course, they're not going to give the money back. They probably already spent it, but they've actually said, and we'll carry on taking money from him, because of course they will, because it's 21% of what they earn.
But they all do this. I think it's a kind of moral neutral.
Now, I'm going to just round us off with an interesting story, which is, something a little bit different, and we don't, every day on this show, talk about metal detecting. Now, to the scandal-hit world of metal detecting, where a 64-year-old man was arrested for fraud after planting historic coins in a field and pretending to find them just to make himself look good. The rare Crusader coins, which could have, by the way, links to the Knights Templar, would have literally changed the recorded history of Western Britain if the discovery had been genuine. This is according to archaeologists. Suspicions arose when no other coins were found in the area, leading to the discovery that, Michael Jones from Port Talbot bought them on eBay for 200 quid. The court found that while Jones had been dishonest, there was no evidence of his intention to make money from it, leading to him being acquitted. I mean, look, you know, I'll do anything for fame. All right, but, you know, burying historic coins... I just love the fact that this could have changed British history.
I think the mad thing is that there are rapists walking free, but they had time to put him on trial. Like, in what come on, he's a silly
It's an
old
angle
man.
I wasn't expecting you to go for, but you make a fair point.
Of all the people who didn't need to be tried.
The guy's ego has got in the way of his morals. What a plonker, to be fair. A complete
Quite
plonker.
sweet. Do you know, I have a bit of sympathy for him.
Go on.
Because he actually said, look, first of all, he owned up to it straight away. And he said, I just really wanted to matter and be somebody important. And it was very sweet. And
He
just
does
didn't know how to make
matter.
his mark in the world. So he just planted some little coins in the grass. He probably didn't realise quite how
This has
much
got
trouble he was getting himself
BBC-funded
into.
film written all over it.
Yeah, it matters
sorry for
now.
him.
He's just been called a plonker on national television by Adam Brooks. There you go. You're famous, mate. Right, time now for today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. Charlotte, I start with your Greatest Britain, please.
OK, mine are these property developers in Birmingham who have got around the listing laws of a lovely Georgian house.
Yeah. Go on, sorry. This is Greatest Britain, yeah? It is, sorry. That's, yeah.
Sorry.
I was surprised.
It's all right.
Yes. OK, well, Camilla.
Yes.
Sorry, got the wrong
It's all right. Happens to the best of us.
Camilla first of all, has her own little mini Barbie doll this week.
Yes.
And she's apparently, so I have heard this gossip behind the scenes, people are saying that she's bossing it and she's a girl boss. That's the wokies. The wokies at the palace are saying she's bossing it because behind the scenes she's really taking the reins, and at Cheltenham she's taking the reins.
Yeah, nice, well done.
She's just, like, absolutely nailing it behind the scenes while everything else is falling apart.
Hold on, she's got a Barbie doll. What,
And
of
she's got a Barbie
Camilla?
doll.
Camilla.
It's all right, isn't it?
We love Camilla.
Bit wrinkly.
It's not wrinkly, it's a very smooth Barbie.
Barbies can be wrinkly.
OK.
It's not a less good doll because it's an older woman.
Actually, they have smoothed her face out unrealistically.
Fair enough.
But,
all right, Adam, who's your Greatest Britain?
Mine is Robert Jenrick, MP.
All right.
Stop laughing. Robert Jenrick, MP, for being proven right over the weak Rwanda bill. It's all coming to the head. And, you know, we've got to look at him and Suella Braverman for calling this out and knowing what they was talking
And
about.
doing such a good job when they were in charge.
All right, well, we'll talk about the dark forces. Right, OK, go on. Who's your Greatest Britain?
Mine is Earl Spencer, Princess Diana's brother, who has talked about the sexual abuse that he experienced at boarding school. I think it's so brave for a man, particularly of this generation, to come out and talk about it.
Yeah.
It's so stigmatised, so destructive to so many men in this country.
I'll be really honest with you. I could have chosen any of them, actually, really. I've gone for Camilla. OK, so today's Greatest Britain is Queen Camilla. But genuinely, it was basically a tie. Right, we've got Union Jackass now. Go on then, Charlotte.
I'll get it right this time.
Yeah.
So Marans is this sort of evil property developer who has built this hideous tower thing
What
on
is
top
that?
of a gorgeous Georgian townhouse, and I just worry that this might set a precedent, and we'll see listing laws. You can't build on, you know, you can't knock down a Georgian townhouse, but you can build on top of it, apparently.
It's a precedent now. This is what we're going to see. But then people would say, hey, we need somewhere to live. Right, Adam, Union Jackass.
Mine is Nicola Sturgeon. I mean, we've known this before, that the masking of children was political.
Yeah.
But it's now sort of been underscored by what Valence has said. You know, we fought back against masking children, shutting schools, and now we know it's political. It's a disgrace. You know, kids really were damaged by this.
OK, go on.
Mine is Cheltenham Races for changing Ladies' Day to Style Day.
Yeah.
Why do we have to get rid of the word lady? Why are we taking things away from the girls?
It's actually a disgrace. I'm literally furious about that.
And also, it sounds ghastly.
No, it's awful.
Well, I mean, not famous for a lot of the style. It's sometimes of the ladies.
Yeah, and it's a place for women to get drunk and show their pants, and that is a great British tradition.
Yeah.
Maybe it's so men can wear dresses on that day.
They could still do that.
OK.
Yes.
Yeah, they could.
They should. Everyone should.
OK, today's Union Jackass is Nicola Sturgeon for masking kids for political gain, allegedly. Right, I would also just like to round off the show by saying I might have giggled earlier on at the idea of a wrinkly Queen Camilla Barbie doll. I was laughing, not at our dear Queen, but at the idea that I wasn't expecting Adam to say that. Right, OK, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. I will see you all tomorrow at 9 p.m. Headliners next. Don't you dare miss it.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Tomorrow, most of us will see some rain. It's going to be another very mild day, particularly across parts of England and Wales. Today, we've had this weather front straddling the country. It's been providing cloud and outbreaks of rain. Some very windy conditions across northern Scotland. They'll slowly ease through the night, as will the showers. But this zone of damp weather will persist, staying pretty soggy over North Wales, northwest England. The rain just creeping back across Northern Ireland and eventually into southern Scotland by dawn. Much of the south and east of England staying dry, very mild here, 9 or 10 the low in towns and cities. Colder across Scotland, a touch of frost possible in the countryside here, but we should start with some sunshine. Still a few showers over the Northern Isles. Rain spreading quickly through the central belt. A wet morning for Northern Ireland. That rain slowly pushes northwards. A few showers over northern England, some heavy showers for Wales and southwest England through the middle of the day. A few getting further east, but much of eastern England, I suspect, will stay dry. And with some sunshine here, we could reach 17, maybe 18 Celsius. A very mild day here, but feeling colder with the wet weather across Scotland. Some snow over the hills. That's still around on Friday morning, but slowly it should start to pull away, and then we're left with bright spells and showers for many. Still quite breezy, and notice the winds coming down from the north across northern Scotland, so a real chill here with temperatures only 6 or 7 Celsius. Again, no further south, pretty mild for the time of year, 15 or 16 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.